Hi quilters. Today I'm going to talk to you about paper piecing, but I want to say something first. This video is available to anyone on YouTube, but I'm not making it for the public. I'm making my videos specifically for the Two Rivers Quilt Guild at the Easton Area Public Library. And I will refer to things that only pertain to them and talk to them in this video. So if you're looking for a general tutorial, this is probably not the best place to check. So library quilters, you are making a block that involves paper piecing for our sampler quilt. And I have started to make mine with some of the pieces. This is actually 3 pieces. 1 of this and 2 of these that have been put together to make one part of the quilt, the block. And then this bow tie shape will be attached to this here, this piece. And then I'm going to make another set of 1 of these and 2 of these that will go there to make my top. And I am doing the 18-inch block because I wanted to check my measurements and be sure that the block would go together. So what I would like to do first is make this unit. And on your instructions, it tells you units and sections. So this is unit 1 with section, no, is it unit A? Unit A with section, I don't know, 1, 2, and 3. I'm not sure what the alphabet and the numbers are for this particular one. And they do change with different patterns. So I've followed the cutting instructions and I've actually organized my fabrics, clipped them together with this being Unit A, Section 1, and this is Unit B, Section 2, so that I can just grab the pieces I want and not get confused. I also want to say that if you design your own paper piecing pattern and you want to figure out your own cutting instructions, what I recommend is to take the longest dimension this way and add about 1.5 inches to your fabric, and then take the longest dimension this way and add 1.5 inches that way, so that you can be sure that your fabric will in fact cover the space you want it to cover. If you go to a couple of the tutorials that I'm going to give you links to right below this video, you will see that some of these people cut enormous pieces of fabric so that they don't have to worry about covering. But not all of us want to waste a lot of fabric. This already wastes some. So I am recommending this plus 1.5, this plus 1.5, and you should have enough. So for this one, it would be actually the longest dimension is kind of like that from here to here. I would add 1.5 to that and then 1.5 to this. So the way we start, this honestly is very counterintuitive to me. I struggle with it, and I'm going to show you a mistake that I made already, even though I've been doing this for a number of years. So we start with this, and we're going to place it face down on our work surface. So all we really see is the back of the paper. And then I'm going to take that center triangle, and this is the piece that I've cut for it. And my goal is to lay it down face up. So I've got the paper face down, the fabric face up, right over that whole piece. And I want it to go at least from here to here. And I want it to go from here to here and leave me a 1/4 inch seam. So I want it really, can you come in close to that? I want it to go from here, a 1/4 inch out, to a 1/4 inch out. This already has the 1/4 inch marked. This already has the 1/4 inch marked. Well, so how can I look at this and know that I've done that? I can hold it up to a window. I can hold it up to a light. And I brought a little light over to my table. So I can kind of see through that, even though the markings are on the other side. And then I'm going to take my fabric, just a second, and I'm going to hold it up, and I can see, well, I can see here that I haven't covered that, so I am going to scooch my fabric over until I can't see any of that piece showing out around the edge of the fabric. And then I am going to pin this down so it cannot go anywhere. Okay, I don't know where I put my pin cushion. We'll just take some of these. And I'm going to pin my fabric down. And I want to pin on the section, not off the section, because I want it to stay. And I'm also not going to pin anywhere near sewing lines because I don't want to sew over my pins. So what I'm doing is I'm putting, on this one, I'm putting 3 pins in. Right around the middle of that triangle to hold this stable, but you can see that my pins, actually I'm not happy with that pin. That's going to come a little close to the machine foot. So I'm going to pull that pin in a little. And now I have this stabilized on the back. Now I'm going to flip it over. And I'm going to take a piece of cardstock. This actually came in something I bought. You can use, if you're doing a small one, you can use a postcard. If you're doing something fairly large, you can cut a piece from a cereal box. But you want some nice thick cardstock, not corrugated cardboard, but some nice thick cardstock. And you're going to line it up right along the line. And this is section 2. And my cardstock isn't quite long enough, but that's going to be okay because it's a straight line. And I'm going to pull this back nice and tight. And I'm going to make a line, a fold, all the way along that line. And I'm just going to check it. And I can see that the fold is right on that line. So that's good. Now I'm going to fingernail press that. And now I'm going to cut off the excess fabric. And you want to use a ruler. That you can buy a fancy ruler that has a fancy 1/4 inch lip. I haven't found it at all necessary. You want a ruler though that you can clearly see lines all along the 1/4 inch. So I'm going to set this up so that 1/4 inch mark is running right along my fold all the way. And I'm going to take my rotary cutter and just slice off this fabric. This is now scrap. It's a nice big scrap. Some of us like to keep big scraps. Okay, now I'm going to flip this back over. I'm leaving this folded. Flip this back over. I'm going to go to my Unit A, Section 2. And I'm going to place that one of these pieces face down right along that seam line. Right on top there, edge to edge, right along that seam line. Now, I don't know if you can see, but I am about to do a really bad thing because when I open this up, and I open this up, it's not going to cover that. So this is where I always make a mistake. I have yet to make a block where I didn't miss that. So in fact, this is going to hang down a lot more here. And really, it just has to match up here. And how do I know that? Because I fuss with it. I turn it, I flip it, I turn it, I flip it. I'll show you one that I messed up already on this block. Can you come in close on that? Look at this. I've got paper showing. All the others I put enough on so that I covered my paper. Well, even that one has a tiny bit, but this is no good. I'm lucky because I made this 18-inch block. I made the pattern a little large, actually by mistake, but I know that I'm going to be cutting half an inch off at the end. And so I'm going to get away with that. But if that were in the middle, I'd have to rip the whole thing out, cut another piece of this, and start over. Not at all fun. So you want to make sure that when you open this up, it is going to cover all the way out to the edge of your piece. And then I am going to pin this again away from, this is the stitching line. I'm going to pin away from that and get it pinned all, no, I don't want it pinned all the way through. Actually, I'm going to just pin it to the fabric under it. I'm not going to try to pin through the paper. If you do, you'll just take the pin out later. It's not tragic, but it's easier this way. And now I'm going to flip this over. Make sure everything is lying flat under it. Take it to my sewing machine, and I'm going to stitch all the way along this line. And I'm not going to stop at the end. I'm going to start a little out, right about above that, and I'm going to end a little beyond. I'm going to go all the way to the end of the paper. So when you set this up on your sewing machine, you're going to, I'm going to get this light's not necessary anymore. I am going to set my stitch length. When I turn my sewing machine on, my stitch length is 2.4, which means each stitch is 2.4 millimeters long. I am going to change it to 1. I'm going to take it all the way down to 1 millimeter. These are going to be eensy little stitches. And the reason I'm doing that is because at the end, I want to be able to take the paper off. And I don't want to have it difficult to do. So I am actually making perforated paper, like something you might get in the mail, where you have to remove the paper. And if I have, don't remove it yet, remove it after the block is made. I'm just showing you. Because I did 1 millimeter stitches, this paper just comes right off easily. So I'm going to my machine. And it's set at 2.4. I'm going to take it down to 1. Right there. That's a 1 millimeter stitch. I'm putting the fabric down, and I am sewing right on, and I'm making sure it's all flat under there. Nothing has folded up. I'm checking this end so you can see that both pieces of fabric are coming under this end, and I am going to sew right on this line, starting a little above. I've set my stitch length. Let me grab those threads so I don't get a schmutz on the back. I am using a walking foot. If you can come around and show, this is a walking foot with this large white piece. I'm using that because it's very stable and sturdy, but you can use any regular foot. And I'm just starting off the line. Now, first of all, this goes slowly because each stitch is so tiny, but I am not pushing it. If you go zooming through usually, cut back about 90%. You do not want to be wildly going down this line. You'll go off it, and then you won't be happy with your result. If you stitch on this line and you've placed your fabric correctly, you are going to have such a beautiful, perfect block, which is why people go to all this trouble. Some people paper piece half square triangles because they want perfection. I see you think I'm a perfectionist, not so much. I don't love paper piecing. So I'm taking it all the way to the end. I'm going off through the seam and off the end. I'm not unknotting or back stitching. Okay, so now I can go back to my work space. I'm going to take out this pin. I'm going to leave that in. And now I can fold this back. And I am coming from the old fabric, the first placed fabric, and I'm pushing it this way. I don't want any fabric caught up in that seam. You can use your iron now. You can use your fingernail. You can use whatever you want to make that really nice and flat. I'm going to pin it down again because I have another piece coming across here. And I want this to hold steady while I'm working. So now I look at this and I need number 3. And I go to my marked fabrics. This is the piece I want. All right, I'm going to repeat those steps. Now I want you to see something here. When I fold back along that line to put the next piece on, there's stitching here. And so it doesn't want to do that at that end. I'm going to start in the middle, and it's kind of making a mess. I am actually going to pull this away from the paper. And whenever you hit a spot like that, just pull your fabric away from the paper. And now I'm going to repeat those steps. I am setting I used my cardstock. I folded right on the line. No, I didn't. I folded in a bit. That's not going to be as pretty, so I'm going to refold. Pull this a little more away from the paper. And get this correct. Now I'm getting away with that. I'm glad I fuddle because you can see that's not easy, especially for me. For some people, this is so easy. I don't like them. Okay, I'm setting up my ruler at 1/4 inch. I'm cutting away this fabric. I am flipping this over. I'm taking this right sides together. It's hard to tell because the fabric doesn't have much of a print. I'm placing it on here. And again, if you see what I was about to do, not good. I have to pull this down and check. I'm still not sure I have it. Check to be sure that when I open this, and I open this, it is going to cover this all the way out to here. Has to cover everything. I'm even going to pull this down a little bit more, but then I have to be sure it's going to cover here all the way to here, and that looks good to me. So I'm going to pin it. I'm going to sew it again along this line, and I'm going to fold it back and finger press it. And you can see I'm just estimating. And that's going to be the whole piece of this unit. When I do this unit, I start with number 1. I'm going to put number 2 on, so I'm going to fold it back and sew it. Okay, so when I'm finished, I'm going to take my rotary cutter and sew along cut along the edges. Don't cut here, you want a seam. I know this is complicated. I'm going to, in the comments below, give you links to several other good written tutorials and video tutorials on how to paper piece.